Hi, good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be back with Multifunding. I love doing webinars with them. I'm sure all of you know they're such a great team. A little bit about myself. I love talking about AI, and it's even more fun to talk about AI when I get to share the fact that I barely graduated high school. And so somebody like me, who's a 50-year-old woman who teaches and engages and facilitates AI, that's kind of the backbone that I build it on, is that if I can learn and integrate it and embrace it and become an expert at it, then anybody can. And so about after I barely graduated high school, I'm originally from Orlando, and I went to work for Disney and worked my way up, traveling and opening up new restaurants and locations. And my background is in hospitality and leadership development. And my favorite topic was effective communication, conflict resolution. And when I moved out to Utah about 12 years ago, I started my consulting firm in 2019, where I focused on teams, high-performing teams, and their effective communication and conflict resolution strategies. Around 2 years ago, because I was really into leadership development, I joined the Silicon Slopes Women in Leadership community. And Silicon Slopes here in Utah is the hub of the all things tech, founders, and startups. And at the time, I had no interest in tech. I just really loved women in leadership, and I wanted to support them. And within a month, I became chair of Women in Leadership for Silicon Slopes. And so I attended lots of events and lots of meetings, all to do with tech innovation and so much excitement around all of the new innovations. And I didn't understand a lot of it. I Googled a lot in every single meeting, but I always put myself in spaces. And about 2.5 years ago is when I really learned about AI and the power of AI. And I became obsessed. And I went to every workshop I could about AI. I downloaded all of the different apps that I could, and I overwhelmed myself. And then I realized that I just needed to focus on one and really hone in on that. And that to me was just ChatGPT at the time. I had Gamma and Perplexity, but I just decided I would lean into the generative AI. And with my clients that I was still working with effective communication and team building, I realized that they were not as excited about AI as I was. They weren't wanting to talk to me about it. They weren't engaging. And I really realized that there was this huge disconnect between the world that I was in with Silicon Slopes and then the companies and businesses that I was working with. Side note, I am also the president of my local chamber of commerce. And so I worked with a lot of small businesses, and they were not engaging with it at all. And so I really got extremely passionate about bringing AI to small businesses and entrepreneurs and to everyday people, because at its core, AI is leveling the playing field. And just in January of this year, we used to talk about if you didn't have AI part of your 5-year strategy, you'd be left behind. And now we talk about a year. If you don't have AI strategy in place within the year, you will be left behind. And so I love doing workshops like these, and I love talking to small business entrepreneurs and getting them started. I want to talk a little bit about our main goal here is just how do we introduce AI into the workplace without causing chaos. So we're not going to get into the meat of actual using AI, but what it means when we're going to introduce it. Like I said, AI is not the future. It's already here, and it is being underhyped, not overhyped. And I love the movie Hidden Figures. Have any of you guys seen the movie Hidden Figures? Put a hand up if you have. I watch it almost like every other month. Every time it comes on TBS or it's playing on, it's always playing in the background. And about a year ago, I was watching it, and Dorothy's character really caught my attention. Dorothy Vaughan was the character that she was the leadership over all of the human computers. And so when she saw that the IBM computer was coming in and going to be taking over all of their jobs, instead of giving up or being upset about it, she learned how to speak Fortran. She learned how to program, but she didn't just do it for herself. She actually taught it to her team. And so that's what I think is so cool about AI is it's not going anywhere. And if you're afraid of it or avoiding it, that is only doing yourself disservice. And so she's my role model when it comes to AI about technology or anything. It's none of us would be the office that had a fax machine. And that was our only way to communicate with our clients. And so that's what we need to think about when we talk about AI. When we go through the goals today, our main goals are going to be basic AI literacy. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this. I just want everybody to kind of know terms and terminology so nobody gets lost when we continue. We are absolutely going to talk about limitations and the warnings of it. And then some of the change management tools. When you're running teams and you're introducing it, not everybody's going to embrace it. And I'm sure if you've been in the AI world before, especially an entrepreneur AI world, you've heard the term that AI is not going to take over your job. Those that know AI are going to be taking over your job. Well, the truth is AI is going to be taking over jobs. You read every day in the news about that, large companies doing that. So how do we upskill our team members and engage them without scaring them into thinking that they're going to lose their job? And how do we encourage those to embrace the AI technology to up level themselves so that they become the go-to experts? And then we're going to actually create the workflow map of how you go from point A to point C on where do we start with AI, if we're going to integrate AI, and what jobs do we want AI to do. So that is our goal. With the webinar today, I'm happy to be interrupted by questions if you like. If you raise your hand, Allie will take care of it and answer for me and catch me back on guard. So please feel free to engage or ask questions, or if you need me to go back or do more details. Can I ask a question though? Let me see, how many, I will just get this up. Do you already act with AI in your businesses right now, officially? 1, 2. I guess we only have 2 cameras, so everybody. I don't yet. Okay, so that's a good start. I love starting from scratch. I actually was also, no worry about the camera, Tracy. It's I just finished. I'm part of a SIG group here at University of Utah where we just created our first leadership blueprint for AI, because AI is still the wild, wild west, and most states don't have actual regulations on governing it. So what will happen is we kind of just do our best and figure it out as we go along. But I will also have a link to that if you like. We have a blueprint, so anybody can just get started. It's not supposed to be overwhelming, but I will share that more with you later too. That's pretty exciting. So moving on to some terms and definitions, and these are just basic ones. And the ones that I'm bringing up today, AI, right, is just the technology that lets computers act like humans. And generative AI is the type of AI that creates new content. So when you go to Google, Google will bring you up a whole bunch of ideas or web pages, not ideas, but web pages that fit your search engine. But what generative AI is, it creates a narrative for you, unlike what Google does. The LLMs is a large language model. It's the AI system that was trained on massive amounts of text, and it understands how to respond in a most natural and helpful way. I use the example of if you go into any of the generative AIs and ask to pull a spaghetti recipe, it's not going to throw in a mango randomly. Because of the patterns it's been taught that does not typically go. So large language models are based on human interaction. I want to also, before I move on though, I didn't actually mean to move on. What's really cool is, I don't know if it's cool, but ChatGPT, OpenAI actually trained their LLM on Enron's internal emails. Do you remember when the Enron scandal happened back in 2008, 2009? Well, all of those emails and internal documents were all in court orders. And so OpenAI used it all to train on their models, which also then led to learn that privacy is not a thing on OpenAI. So I thought that was a cool little interesting fact. But back, I didn't mean to skip ahead to this. So a prompt with prompt and prompt engineering is probably something you have heard. These are what we talk to our AIs with, our generative AI. And so prompt engineering is the skill set of telling AI exactly what you need it to do and getting the best results out. And inference is just basically the thinking, making it infer on what the human natural next thing would be. Agents, this word is a little tricky in AI because on Copilot you can build an agent, where on ChatGPT you can build GPTs. But in the background, in the tech world of agents, agents are what's the plan of what's coming to be is right now with AI, you tell it what you need to do and you tell it where to source that information from. And the goal of agents is that it will just do all of that on its own. It will know where to go to get the answers and the results, and then make the decisions for you without you having to step it along the way. So that is the next step. Sometimes it's called vibe coding or agenics, but we're not going to go too deep into any of this. We're focusing on today is generative AI because this is the easiest first footprint into all of it. And the difference between what that large language model is, which is basically just the next fill in the blank, it's the autocomplete, it's that what humans would do next. The generative part of it, though, which is the ChatGPTs and the Claudes and the Copilots, that creates the new content. So that's like the creative piece of what a large language model is. So that's what we're going to do and talk about today, because the key part about generative AI is that it's a learning program, which means for you and your company, the more you use it, the more it learns what you need from it. So it becomes a team member to you. So of course, there are tons of warnings, and these are just a little bit that I want to point out, but it does track and store data. There are obviously AI programs that you can buy and software that you can program that would be internal investments. But when it comes to what's out there on the open AI, like the Copilots, always defer to it's going to track and store data. So don't put anything out there that would go against any kind of privacy laws or HIPAA violations. And I think I found out that like if you just ask for phone numbers, addresses, and birth dates, that technically can fall under a HIPAA violation. So really make sure you look into those policies in place. So it does lie, and they call that hallucinating. And we've seen this in public more than once on huge scales from the government, from law, lawyers. What will happen is generative AI doesn't want to say, I don't know. It won't say, I don't know. It will give you an answer. But it's getting better. And to prevent it, you can ask for it to cite a source, or you just need to make sure that you always go and validate those sources. And then when it's biased, because generative AI, we're catching up, but when AI was introduced to the world, women weren't using it. Women thought professional women specifically weren't using because they thought it was cheating. And so they weren't engaging with it as much. And men were, they didn't care. That wasn't one of their concerns. As soon as AI came, they got involved and were programming it. And so it's really important. And I'm very passionate at getting women and minorities to engage with generative AI because it's a learning program, which means if it gives you an answer and you like that answer, it will only be biased to that. So the more people that use it and engage with it, the least amount of bias it will grow to be, hopefully, right? In a perfect world. Compliance challenges, again, depending on where you are and what departments you have, you would have to figure that out. And then it can't replace critical thinking. It does lack human judgment. So it can't be out of the box thinking, and it's very contextual. So it doesn't have context. It's just data driven. So it can't replace the human experience. And this gets really tricky when we are looking at what AI is doing in replacing those entry-level positions, because what is happening is, if you don't do the grunt work, so you're coming out of college, you are using AI to do all the hard stuff for you, then you kind of don't gain experience from that. And so that is a personal warning, because mental atrophy is also a thing, right? Your creativity. Back in the 80s, I could memorize, 50 of my best friends' phone numbers. I knew them all. I don't even know my own kids' phone numbers right now. I honestly couldn't name probably two numbers in them, because it's just out of practice. The same thing happened with GPS. We used to have to remember, within the first couple times of going somewhere, we would remember where we went. You could remember landmarks and turns. And now we're so reliant on GPS that we don't even think about where we're going. We're just following the directions. So AI can do that to ourselves too, is if we're always referring to AI to be creative or to think for us, then we're going to lose that ability, which is a very real concern. But there is also a real cost of avoiding AI, because there is so many things that humans shouldn't have to do. If it's a repetitive task of data and it doesn't take creativity and it doesn't take innovation, then it's something that maybe we need to pass over to the machine. If we don't incorporate AI, we will lose our competitive edge. There are already people that can do more than we can with less humans, because they've trained AI to work on their behalf and for them. And so that's a real one. It's exciting because it does free up our time to do what we're passionate about. I work right now with the fire district in South Carolina, and it's been a game changer for them, and so exciting for a lot of these, especially the fire chiefs who hate being behind the desk, who don't like running reports. But none of the firefighters got into being a firefighter for doing paperwork. And so it's just been really awesome to see them be able to incorporate AI and get back to like the human fun that they want to, the human relation part of it. And then stress and burnout from doing it all. This is not just at the leadership level, this is at every level in the company. And according to Harvard, they just came out with a report that the number one thing that AI is being used for is for mental health counseling. And so that one should tell anybody who runs a team that mental health is still a huge problem, and AI can either be a tool to help that or actually cause even more. So that's why this discussion is so important, is because we are always going to focus on keeping the human in the mix. The AI cannot take over everything. It can help the repetitiveness. I say, like, it's doing the dishes so that we can have fun and the stuff that we're really good at. Here are some statistics I just pulled out yesterday, and I did verify these from their sources. And it says that 61% of employees are already using AI tools without formal approval. 40% of HR leaders say AI will disrupt current roles within 3 years, and 56% of employees fear that their company lacks a clear AI plan. This is especially true when it comes to Gen Z and those younger millennials. They are already using AI. My kids in high school are already using AI. And so when they are going out into their professional fields, they are going to be looking for companies that are going to grow and embrace that too. 75% of organizations using AI report improved team productivity within 6 months, and 81% of CEOs say AI is now part of their business strategy. It's not just an IT thing. And so when we talk about this a little bit too, it's more about not teaching our employees about AI. It's actually creating the policies in place, the manifestos, and the roadmaps to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So those AI produced end products aren't getting released without our knowledge, or that we know what's going on within our company. So we are needing to just guide our teams at this point and have a plan. And so that is our goal. Let's talk about, let's see if I can share this again. Here are some basic uses. If you have not actually used AI, these are all things that you can do in the basic chat GPTs and Copilots. You can use following up email drafting, policy summaries, your FAQs, product description writing. You can use it for email campaign content, social media captions, talking points prep, data analysis, client touch points, open house emails. So for we use it for our real estate agents, listing descriptions. Also, if you're in insurance and policies, how can we turn this huge, complicated policy into something my client is going to understand? I'm going to ask you guys now to tell me some ways that you've used it in the chat or on screen if you want to help other people. Anything that wasn't on there that anybody wants to share on how you're using AI. Rich.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT. I have the five part with the thinking and the pro with it, and it's been very helpful for me in a lot of ways. I use it to source out. I own a small Italian ice company. We have something that's innovative. I'm trying to reach people, the end user. And so we're doing a campaign since April where we send out packages of product to where targeted customers who we think would be most receptive to a natural Italian ice. And so, we have no synthetic dyes, natural color, no, it's naturally sweetened. And so ChatGPT guided me to colleges and universities. A lot of it's a huge demographic there. Hospital systems, not necessarily for the patients, but for the folks working there. Scoop shops, ice cream scoop shops, which is natural. Supermarkets as a way to enter in a crowded space with something unique. And then I map it out. We're starting. I have a customer in Florida. Their sales have been down a little bit down in the Orlando area where you're from, and we're doing a 60-day campaign where we send out this week 15. I'm getting into it too deep in the woods, but bottom line is, it guides me. It takes a ton of time and shrinks it down into minutes, and then I tweak from there. And the cover letters that go out with these things. I also download spreadsheets. I'm doing my projections now, utilizing it, which I dreaded in the past because it's just so time consuming. Now, in a matter of minutes, I get an idea of whether what I'm projecting and putting in actually works. And I feel like getting back to what you say, in my mind, I'm spending more time working on the business, less time working in the business, and I can have my hands on multiple more things at the same time because I'm saving time. And I have about 20 some employees, maybe 4 or 5 folks in leadership roles, and we're all gradually using it more.
That is the key ways with ChatGPT. And if anybody on here doesn't pay for the $20 a month, just the basic, it is a game changer. So buy the version for $20 a month. And what Rich said too, it's building an advisory team online so that you can think outside of the box, or you can have it create a demographic. So you put a demographic that is your ideal client, and then have ChatGPT find more like that. So that's a key way to do it. And a lot of the engineering classes I do, it's building your own GPTs and building your own agents so that each one has a role to do that. Where, anybody who's like a type A person who's like, don't tell me what to do, but then at the same time telling me exactly what to do and in what order to do it in. So it is a game changer on that. And Tracy, email, jazzing it up, that is 100% something that I do that for too. And then Dawn uses it for sales and marketing content, video and visuals. Yeah, business and legal, and being able to like what Rich said too, with pulling data, quantitative data and qualitative data. Nobody enjoys doing that over and over. So being able to have the basic ChatGPT can do that for you too. Repurposing is key with financial. That's what Dawn said. I love that. Don't reinvent the wheel. Have it just have the one set of data and then being able to use that to different audiences. Yeah, those are great. Okay, let's get back into how to do that. Thanks for sharing, you guys. So we talked about this a little bit already. With generative AI, again, I said, remember, it's learning from you. So that's if every single one of us were to go on ChatGPT right now and put in a certain prompt, we would all get a different answer. And that's also, it goes to bias. You'll see this if anybody's on social media. This happens a lot with people who's like, I'm asking ChatGPT this, like, what's the best religion? What's the best politics side? And it will tell them exactly what they want to hear because they've been feeding that generative AI with their own bias. So when people say that this is like ChatGPT answers this way, so it has to be true, take that with a grain of salt. It is learning from you, the user, and it's wanting to give you those answers. So it's remembering what you're doing for it. So in work and in your company, this is why it's a game changer, is because you want everybody on your team using it for the same way. There is a woman in marketing that only her team could, like, they couldn't do anything if they couldn't use ChatGPT or Gemini, because she learned that ChatGPT is becoming a Google, meaning the more her company's name was getting put into the AI, the more she was coming up in SEOs and search engines. So we're not going to go into that here, but those are very creative marketing ways of putting your name and your company consistently in these generative AIs. And all of them have pros and cons. I usually suggest, so ChatGPT, which is OpenAI, Gemini, Claude, or Copilot, use the one you like best, but have more than one. Anything that you can do on one, as long as you know how to do it, you can use others. And it is technology. So if one goes down or gets a glitch, you don't want to be held hostage by it. You want to be able to go over and use another one. So all of them have great. Copilot is one of the most popular ones for companies right now because they have the best program for internal use. So I am a ChatGPT girl, but I have been over the past 6 months really diving into Copilot, and it's an excellent tool. Claude is a great tool. It is the more creative one out of all of them. It takes, for me, it'll fill in the blank with long, really fairy tale-ish type stories, but some people love that creative part of it. And then again, what Richard brought up about how he uses ChatGPT 5, when they come out with new versions, it's not always just the version upskilled and built better. It actually does different things. So if you go over to, and we're not going to get into it now, but like ChatGPT 4 can go into deeper research and more critical thinking. Like I said, generative AI is very positive and won't tell you no. So it will always tell you that you're doing a good job. It always tell you have a great idea. It is a very positive teammate, which is great, except it doesn't give you critical feedback. And so some of the other AIs are a little bit more critical in critique and thinking. So that just depends on what you want. But you need to tell it what its purpose is. So I often say, give it a role, tell it what it's going to be in the mindset of, give it clear instructions, and provide context and break down tasks. And then always update and revise. So we're not going to get into the meat of programming and prompt engineering, but in general, this is just the set of when you're talking to generative AI, and talk to it like it's a human. I always tell people, like, it's like your intern. You just have to give it baby steps and instructions, and it just wants to please you. AI's come so far, though, it's more of like a master's student. Their responses immediately are so much easier and faster than they've ever been. But use it like a human, and at minimum, if you don't know what you're doing or where to start, tell it. Say, I don't know where to start from this. This is who I am. This is what I want. Can you help me? Ask me some questions, and it will guide you along the path. But that takes a lot of time. So that's why prompting is important to learn eventually, but that's a different thing. So with any good change management implementation, the leader is the one who communicates that we're doing this. We're implementing AI. This is why we're doing and what we're doing, but we're going to turn it over to the team to determine the how. So with change leadership, at the core, it's as simple as Leaders communicate the why and the what, and the team gets to determine the how. That is the best way to get team members on board and engaged so that they are part of the decision-making process. So I want to show you this because we're going to talk about change management. But when I built this presentation about 8 months ago, focused on the 4 pillars of change management, I had ChatGPT create my graphic because it offered to, because that's another thing. Do you want me to break? And I said, yes, absolutely. Make me a graphic. And you can see that this is really pretty colors, but it is a hot mess. So this is a reminder that humans have to stay in the middle because AI, we joke, it's like leaving a toddler with a marker. It doesn't even have actual words there. But what happened with this is that it gave me an idea that I could then go to Canva and build my own. So again, it's a great brainstorming and like a first draft. So if you use AI as a first draft, I couldn't use that. And I was trying actually yesterday to have ChatGPT create a new one to see how far it's come. And it still was not doing a good job at all of redoing this. But the 4 pillars of AI change management is very similar, if not exactly the same things that we have to do when we're doing any kind of change management in our companies and in our teams, is we have to clarify the why, which is the awareness. We need to engage the right people, enable smart action, and then measure what matters. This is how we always will, especially with AI, keep human-centered. We have to keep transparent and ethical and be inclusive. And this gets tricky when it comes to AI. I also just brought up, before I move on, I listen to AI podcasts all the time. And one study came out about coworkers. And they said it was, of the people polled, 76% of these team members said that they do not trust their coworkers who use AI. And to me, that was a huge red flag because as somebody who teaches trust, it's not about the AI. It's about that there's a lack of trust in the first place. So back in 2019, when I started my consulting business, it had been 12 years since I got out of business, any of my business classes. And so I didn't know how to write a proposal. And for my first, I didn't know what I was doing. And so the first thing I did was go to Pinterest and I went to YouTube videos on how to help me create a proposal, a professional proposal. And so to think about that, that was okay back in the day. And we all still to this day go to YouTube for tutorials and learn how. But somehow AI has this big black flag over, or, that it's not trustworthy. And that is what is really important when it comes to change management, is that we're all on the same page so that doesn't happen. Because anybody can fake knowledge on AI and anybody can fake knowledge in the real world, but you can't be a fraud if you can't back it up. So using AI to fix and tweak your emails, or using AI to pull data analysis, there's nothing untrustworthy about that. It just needs to have proper channels in place of why it's being used. And it's not being used. So we talk about this with teachers and we talk about this with interviewers, because everybody now, anybody who's smart enough will, if they're applying for a job, runs their resume through a generative AI, ChatGPT, to look for blind spots, to figure out how to put my best foot forward. And so when I talk to HR leaders, instead of saying, or look at it like they use AI or why they use AI, ask that potential potential worker, team member, how they used it. Because somebody who knows how to use AI to better their ability to add more value to a company is a way better team member that just is using AI because they don't know what they're doing. And you can vet that. Same thing with colleges, right? Right now with university and professors, the go-to is assuming everybody's using AI. So you have to go in with the assumption it's using AI and figuring out the how they used it, and are they using it to help them with time constraints? Do they actually understand what is being put out there? That's where the trust is going to be given, is when you're using it as a tool and not as a replacement. And that is why it's so important to have policies in place and know what our company position is on it. And I highly suggest, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, is encourage AI nonstop. Encourage it, and learn from it. So before you can bring on anything new, and like I said, it's the foundation of trust, right? We've all heard, I hope, well, you've heard that high functioning teams are based off of the fact that they have psychological safety. And psychological safety means that you're allowed to fail. The highest teams, I've talked about this many times before, Amazon, when it got started, business leaders were not allowed to say no. So supervisors and directors were not allowed to say no to ideas that their teams came to them with. If they said no, or they wanted to say no, they had to write out a 2-page report on why they said no and post it for everybody to see. Because innovation comes from people feeling safe enough to fail and try new things. And when you take in failing as just a starting data point, it changes the narrative. So when your company, when you as a leadership team allow people to embrace, with your own risk analysis, AI, and being able to fail with it and learn from it, you're going to get innovative quicker and faster. So for leadership teams, though, you have to remember that these need to be your priority. You have to be transparent and consistent with your decisions. And consistent can be, I don't know. We don't know. We're going to see how it works. We're trying our best. But you need to be available for people's concerns, their ideas, their pushback. Then you have to model the change. You have to embrace it yourself. Clarify those expectations. Are we just trying to figure this all out and there is no pass or fail? Or is it we are hitting certain benchmarks? And if AI does not help you hit this benchmark, then we're not using AI for this task. So it goes both ways. You don't want to spend 4 hours messing around with a generative AI that it could have just taken you 30 minutes to get it done in the first place. So this is the things that we have to figure out as a team of where AI is going to be useful and where it's not. And then absolutely, we have to remember to have patience. So again, back to those 4 pillars of change management is the awareness and clarifying the why. Why are we doing this? So we need to educate everybody what the AI is, what it is for us and our company, because it's going to be something different for everybody. Explain the purpose, the benefits, and the limitation of what we're doing, what we're using, and why we're doing it. Communicate early and often, and then tie that to your vision, mission, and your values. Most people aren't afraid of change. They're afraid of the unknown. And the more comfortable you can make them with the change, the better off and more efficient that change is actually going to be. So we want to clarify the why. That is our first pillar when it comes to it. Then we have to engage the right people. So we're going to engage our stakeholders. This is who needs to be involved with this plan, because again, I'm highly suggesting that you guys, after this, you have a written plan and policy in place. So who's going to be a part of that? It needs to be somebody from the C-suite. Maybe it's HR and legal. Maybe it's admin. Maybe it's customers, client feedback. Who are your stakeholders? You're going to have to figure that one out. And then how are you going to collaborate on it? I highly suggest you build a coalition. So a coalition is different than a task force, because a task force kind of creates these rules and these situations, and these are what we're doing. With the coalition, it's a lot more fluid. And we're going to check things out and see if it works, and we're going to be okay with feedback that doesn't work, and we're going to learn and grow, and it's a breathing type of organization. So build a coalition, and then have that. And at the end, I do actually have a blueprint for any of you that want to build a coalition and what that would entail, so that you don't have to research that. I have a download for you for that. And then where do we go with the feedback? Who's the go-to? Do you have somebody in-house that's going to be your, chief AI officer is probably something that's coming. Chief fractional AI officer. It's not going to just be IT. Remember, there used to be an IT person. Now there's IT departments. So who's going to do the research on the AI? Who's going to vet different things that might work? who's going to be a lead in your AI implementation, and how do you get the feedback going from your team? Because again, we have to include everybody in these decision making to get them really engaged and on board. So you have to you have to create a clear roadmap. What does that look like? So you have your coalition, you have your stakeholders. We are now going forward with this AI implementation. So what we're going to do is create a roadmap. This is keeping everybody involved in knowing what's going on and where we're going, where we're heading. So we're going to define the problem. So this is a case use, and hopefully by the end of today, this meeting, you'll be able to find a case use for yourself. What's the one case use that we're going to start with? What is that one repetitive, time-consuming task in your day? For any of your team members, you can ask any one of them in your leadership team, not just you. How could AI support or streamline that task? And then let's try it out. So you're going to pilot it, see who else should test it. So is there somebody else that thinks that we're kind of doing similar jobs? Will this help us both? Document and reflect what worked, what didn't. Again, failure is just a learning point. And then what do we need to adjust? And then we're going to plan the next steps. How could we use what we've learned here to expand and to grow? So the roadmap that we're going to build and include with our team. So this is a very basic, anybody should be able to do change plan, right? So number one, the case use. What's the one case we're going to start with? Number two, we're going to decide who needs to be aligned, who needs to make part of this, how are we going to communicate to this team, and then a first 30-day action step. So this could simply be your coalition. We're starting with building coalition. We have to have deadlines and action plans in place or it's not going to happen. So have time constraints for what things are going to be done and used for. Moving on to that AI workflow. This is what I want you guys to be able to build on your own. Again, at the end, I will have a download for you guys to fill in the blank for this. But remember, we just acknowledged what's that one task if we could take it off of our plate. But then what does that task entail? So we're going to build that workflow of from that when it comes in to what's expected to what the output's going to be. Because if we can't define those different tasks in that one project, then we're not going to be able to have AI know what it needs to do. So that's what the workflow is building out exactly what we're going to tell AI we need it to do. And what that means, so your workflow needs to look like this. You're going to define the goal. We want you to be build us a marketing timeline for go-to-market in 4 weeks. You're going to assign a role. You are our marketing agent. You are an expert marketer. Give it clear instructions, exactly what you're looking for. What kind of things does it need to be thinking of? Does it need to be thinking of the demographic? Does it need to be thinking of the output? Is it going in a newsletter? Is it going for social media? Be specific of what kind of output you want it to be, and then see what the response is. Find out what it is. Do you like what it's telling you to do? Does it make sense? Have you checked to make sure that it's not lying, right? Have you done all the things to make sure it's accurate? And then you just refine it, reuse it, and say, this isn't going to work here because this isn't the right information, but let's put this information in to get a better answer. That is the refining concept. So that is a workflow. Again, I will give you a download for you guys to have one for fill in the blank at the end. So then again, we've established the why to our team. We've created our coalitions. We have given them the structure, that roadmap, that action plan, and then we have to figure out what matters. So how do we measure what matters? You have to decide that in your team. Success metrics, what does that mean to you? What outcomes are good? What are positive? What are things that are not going to be there? Where are our ethical guardrails? How we established a policy, governance, like this is what's okay, this is what's not okay. Have we built those feedback loops? And then do we have a policy that can be revisited, updated, and policy? Again, having a policy in place, a manifesto in place is going to be key for your team. And again, I have a download for you at the end so that you can fill in the blanks on this. But this is what's so important. This structured, again, change management is keeping everybody on board, because you're going to have people in your team that are going to be super excited and overzealous, and some that are very hesitant. Generational differences in your workplace are going to make a big difference. And those that are over 50 and over 60 that are not embracing AI, there is so much to get excited about, along with the ones that are just coming out of college. So what is your policy in play on everybody to level the playing field? It is, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So don't let anybody get upset. So if you're familiar with the Kubler-Ross change curve, he really let us know that the same stages of grief that we have in our real lives are the same things that happen in our work offices and workplace. And so again, when it comes to the AI, you have to be super aware that everybody's going to take it a little bit different, and there's going to be frustrations. So at the beginning, right, everybody still right now is in denial. That's the phase that most people are in, that AI is not going to take my job. AI isn't as big of a deal. It's overhyped. Then they're going to get irritated with it, bargaining. Okay, what do we have to do? What do I have to do? But here's the pit of despair that we're all going to go into with the overwhelm, not just for your team, but for you too. And so you have to remember that this is normal, and don't get overwhelmed for it, because of the roadmap that we have, because of the plan we have in place, we're going to be able to get everybody in acceptance that needs to be, that help us all going into the right goals for a company. But this is very real in the workplace, not just in our steps of grief in our real life. So I want you guys to have some more ideas. We're gonna have about 5 minutes to talk about some things that you think that you see right here that, like, I didn't think about this, but this is something I actually want to start using. And all of these can be used on that $20 a month generative AI. Nothing major, nothing that has to be programmed in. But also what's really cool is AI right now is learning to code. And so you're going to be able to build your own SaaS products. If you have somebody in-house that is an engineering mind that could tell AI exactly what it needs it to do, you're going to be able to build your own. And it's coming sooner than you think. And so starting your team, getting very comfortable with all of this, is going to be a game changer if you embrace it. So can you have more product description writing, social media captions, client touch point templates, proposal drafting? Simply simplify your hiring and onboarding. SOPs is a great way to start. Nobody loves writing SOPs or updating SOPs. Personalizing your customer experience. Can you reduce human error? Future-proof your business. Okay, this is what our goal is for this AI. So when you turn this off, this is what I'm asking you to do. And this is to not just think, oh, this was great information, we really will get to this. It's really about implementing it now. So where are your AI principles and policies? Do you have a risk analysis in place on AI? Where it can be used, what shouldn't be used on? How do you find out if it's a good thing? Do you have something in place for that? I want you to build a coalition, even if it's a team of 2 or 3 in that coalition, to know that this is going to be a focus for them. Then create that policy and manifesto of where we stand, what we believe in for AI and its use, and then use that change framework that we discussed this time to reduce the fear, keep humans in the mix, and then increase the team's buy-in on getting excited about it and seeing all the potential of it. Promise. Here's a QR code for you to get those downloads to create your own workflow if you like. But my information is Robin everywhere. You'll also, I think, get it I don't know if that's blocking. I'm sorry if I'm messing this up. But everybody, if you email me too, if you don't even want to set up here, I'm Robin Huling on every single social media site. And if you need anything, I am here for you on that. But on this QR code, you'll get the workflow, you'll get a manifesto, policy builder, and a coalition how-to, who does what and what that actually means. So I will stop sharing that.